Hey science class! If you missed school or you need to review on your Punnett squares, you can watch this video. So let's go over a couple of vocabulary words that you really need to know to understand Punnett squares. Okay, the first one is allele. Okay, alleles are a version of a gene. Okay, so an example is a version of the eye color gene is brown. A version of the eye color gene could also be blue. And we give these alleles letters to help us tell them apart. Okay? And you inherit each allele from your parents. Okay? You get one allele from your mother, one allele from your father. Okay? So you have two copies of alleles. Now some of these alleles will be dominant, and if you have a dominant allele, it's going to show up. It's dominant, it's big, it's strong, it's loud. Okay? And we give these dominant alleles capital letters to help us tell them apart. Okay? And the next type of allele is recessive. And these guys are kind of shy. They sit back, and especially if a dominant allele is around. Okay? And it only shows up if it's with its buddy. Okay? It needs two of them to show up. For example, and we use lowercase letters to help us tell them apart. Okay? And they're only going to show up, they're only going to show themselves if they're with one of their kind. Okay? They need their best friend. Okay? Two other words that you need to know is homozygous and heterozygous. Homozygous means having two of the same alleles. Okay? Homo means the same. Okay? So these flowers, for example, could be homozygous, having two of the same. This is homozygous recessive. And homozygous dominant, two of the same alleles. Heterozygous means having two different alleles, and hetero means different. Different. Okay, so this flower down here could be heterozygous. Now remember, this dominant allele for purple is going to show up, and the recessive allele is just going to sit back in the corner and be shy. Okay, so here's a basic Punnett square. It's just a box with a line down the middle and a line across the middle. And these Punnett squares really help us tell what potential offspring could look like and what genes they have. Okay, so if we know the genes of the parents, so remember from the previous slide, we have a homozygous dominant purple flower and a homozygous recessive white flower. We want to know what their babies might look like. Okay, so in order to set this up, you're going to put one parent's alleles on the top. Okay, so we'll do the purple one. Okay, one allele goes over one column, one allele goes over the other column. And we do the same with the other parent, okay, on the side. Now this is going to tell us what their offspring could look like if they reproduce. Okay, and each box represents a 25% chance that their offspring is going to look like that. Okay, and so we're going to just drop these letters down like so, all the way through, okay? They keep going. We're just going to fill in these boxes. Okay, because each parent is going to give one allele to their offspring. And then we do the same with this other parent. Okay. Okay, so their offspring are going to inherit a dominant allele from this purple flower and a recessive allele from this white flower. And so what are their offspring going to look like if they have one dominant and one recessive allele? They're going to look purple, and that's their phenotype. Okay, that's what they look like. Their physical appearance, their phenotype is their physical appearance. Now their genotype over here, that's their genes that they have. So that's just this genotype. It's the genes that they inherited. Okay, let's move on away from peas. So here we have two celebrities. Let's practice this. And you notice that Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck, they're very famous. They're in a lot of movies. They do have a daughter, but we're going to guess what she might look like. Jennifer has dimples in her cheeks when she smiles, okay? And we're going to call her homozygous dominant because dimples are dominant. And Ben, when he smiles, he doesn't have dimples, and we're going to call him homozygous recessive. So let's set this up. We're going to put Jennifer on the top. We have to put one of her alleles over each column and Ben's on the side. And then we're just going to fill out the Punnett square. So we drop the D, the dominant gene, the dominant allele, into each box. And then we bring across the recessive allele that Ben gives. Okay? So what's the possible genotypes? Okay, remember the genotypes are the genes. So every single possibility, their child is going to have a dominant allele and a recessive allele. And what is she going to look like? If dimples are dominant and no dimples is recessive, what is she going to look like? Is she going to have dimples or is she not going to have dimples? Well, this dominant one, remember, if it's there, it shows. Okay, so any daughter or child they have is going to have dimples. Okay, that's their phenotype. She's going to look like that. Let's go on to a next one. Let's try a different one. Okay, so this time we're going to do cleft chin. You can kind of see that Ben has a cleft chin. We're going to call him heterozygous. Okay, he's going to have one of each. He's going to have a dominant and a recessive allele. And Jennifer is going to be homozygous recessive because she doesn't have any dimples in her chin. So let's set this up. And I'm going to use we're going to go little c. We're going to put Jennifer on the top. Okay. And we're going to call that big C because it's kind of hard to tell them apart. And this is Ben on the side. Okay, so let's drop these little c's into each box. And we're going to give a big C from Ben and a little c from Ben. Okay, so these are their possible offspring. Okay, now what are the possible genotypes? Well, we have the big C, little c, okay, dominant and recessive, and we have a homozygous recessive. So if the cleft chin is dominant, could their daughter have a cleft chin? If it's there, it's going to show up. So she could have dimples or a cleft chin. Or she could not, okay? There's a 50-50 chance, okay? There's a 25% chance it's going to be, she might be this one. A 25% chance she could be this one. 25% chance she could be this one. And 25% chance that she could be that one. Okay? So she could have a cleft chin or she could have no cleft. Okay? Let's do one more. This time, if you look at Ben and Jennifer's earlobes, they are both unattached. And for this example, we're going to call that heterozygous. Okay? And unattached earlobes is dominant and attached earlobes is recessive. Okay? So both parents are going to have a dominant and recessive allele. So let's set this up. Okay? Dominant, recessive, dominant, and recessive. Let's figure out if their daughter or son could have attached earlobes. Okay? It's possible. I'll show you. Okay? So we go like this. We got a dominant and a dominant gene here. Okay? And we got a dominant and recessive allele. And we have a dominant and recessive allele. Okay? And then we're going to bring this down all the way and across all the way We have 2 recessive alleles. So what are the possible genotypes of their kids? Well, they could be homozygous dominant. They could be heterozygous. Or they could be homozygous recessive. Okay? So is it possible for their daughter to have attached earlobes? Yeah, because if this one, there's no dominant there to show up. So they get to come and show their stuff. Okay? So she could have attached or unattached earlobes, even though both of her parents have 2 unattached earlobes. It's possible. Okay? So that's the basics of Punnett squares. Now it's your turn to practice, okay, and do the worksheet if you haven't done that already. And just to review, homozygous dominant, they're going to have 2 dominant alleles. And heterozygous means they're going to have 2 different alleles, a dominant and recessive. And homozygous recessive means they're going to have 2 recessive alleles. Okay, and that's the basics of Punnett squares. So hopefully this helps you, and just ask me questions if you need to, okay?